According to the yogis, there are two nerve currents in the spinal column called the Pingala and the Ida, and a hollow canal called the Sushumna running through the spinal cord. At the lower end of the canal is what the yogis call the lotus of the Kundalini. They describe it as triangular in form. In it, in the symbolical language of the yogis, there is coiled up a power called the Kundalini. When the Kundalini awakes, it tries to force a passage through this hollow canal, and as it rises step by step, as it were, layer after layer of the mind opens up, and many different visions and wonderful powers come to the yogi. When it reaches the brain, the yogi becomes perfectly detached from the body and mind. The soul realizes its freedom. We know that the spinal cord is shaped in a peculiar manner. If we take the figure 8 horizontally, we see two parts, which are connected in the middle. Now if you pile up a number of 8s, one on top of another, that will represent the spinal cord. The left side is the Ida, the right is the Pingala, and that hollow canal which runs through the center of the spinal cord is the Sushumna. Where the spinal cord ends in some of the lumbar vertebrae, a fine fiber issues downward, and the canal runs even through that fiber, only much finer. The canal is closed at the lower end, situated near what is called the sacral plexus, which, according to modern physiology, is triangular in form. The different plexuses that have their centers in the spinal canal can very well stand for the different lotuses of the yogi. The yogi describes several centers, beginning with the Muladhara, the basic, and ending with the Sahasrara, the thousand-petaled lotus in the brain. So if we take the different plexuses as representing these lotuses, the idea of the yogi can be understood very easily in the language of modern physiology. We know that there are two sorts of actions in the nerve currents, one efferent and the other efferent. One sensory and the other motor, one centripetal and the other centrifugal. One carries the sensations to the brain and the other from the brain to the outer parts of the body. In the long run, these vibrations are all connected with the brain. Another point we must remember from physiology is that the nerve center which regulates the respiratory system, the breathing system, has a controlling action over the whole system of nerve currents. Now we can see why rhythmical breathing is practiced. In the first place, from it comes a tendency of all the molecules in the body to move in the same direction. When the mind, by nature distracted, becomes one-pointed and thus is changed into a strong will, the nerve currents, too, change into a motion similar to electricity, for the nerves have been proved to show polarity under the action of electric currents. This shows that when the will is transformed into the nerve currents, it changes into something like electricity. Therefore, when all the motions of the body have become perfectly rhythmical, the body becomes a gigantic battery of will. This tremendous will is exactly what the yogi wants to acquire. This is, therefore, the physiological explanation of pranayama. It tends to bring a rhythmic action in the body and helps us, through the respiratory center, to control the other centers. The aim of pranayama is to rouse the coiled-up power in the Muladhara, called the Kundalini. When a sensation is carried to a center, the center reacts. This reaction, in the automatic centers, is followed by motion. In the conscious centers, it is followed first by perception and secondly by motion. All perception is the reaction to action from outside. How, then, do perceptions and dreams arise? There is then no action from outside. The sensations must therefore have been coiled up somewhere. For instance, I see a city. The perception of that city is from my reaction to the sensations brought from outside objects comprising that city. That is to say, a certain motion in the brain molecules has been set up by the motion in the end-carrying nerves, which, again, are set in motion by external objects in the city. Now even after a long time I can remember the city. Dreams are exactly the same phenomena, only in a milder form. But whence is the action that set up even the milder forms of similar vibrations in the brain? Certainly not from the primary sensations. Therefore, it must be that the sensations are coiled up somewhere, and by their action bring out the mild reaction which we call dream perception. Now, the center where all these residual sensations are, as it were, stored up, is called the Muladhara, the root receptacle, and the coiled up energy of action is the Kundalini, the coiled up. It is very probable that the residual motor energy is also stored up in the same center, since, after deep study or meditation on external objects, the part of the body where the Muladhara center is situated, probably the sacral plexus, gets heated. Now, if this coiled up energy is roused and made active and then consciously made to travel up the Sushumna canal, as it acts upon center after center, a tremendous reaction will set in. When a minute portion of energy travels along a nerve fiber and causes a reaction from the centers, the perception is either a dream or imagination. But when, by the power of long internal meditation, the vast mass of energy stored up travels along the Sushumna and strikes the centers, the reaction is tremendous, immensely superior to the reaction of dream or imagination, immensely more intense than the reactions of sense perception. It is supersensuous perception, and when it reaches the metropolis of all sensations, the brain, the whole brain, as it were, reacts, and the result is the full blaze of illumination, the perception of the self. As this Kundalini force travels from center to center, layer after layer of the mind, as it were, opens up, and the universe is perceived by the yogi in its fine or casual form. Then alone are the causes of the universe, both as sensation and as reaction, known as they are, and hence comes all knowledge. The cause being known, the knowledge of the effects is sure to follow. Thus, the rousing of the Kundalini is the one and only way to the attaining of divine wisdom, superconscious perception, realization of the spirit. The rousing may come in various ways, through love for God, through the mercy of perfected sages, or through the power of the analytic will of the philosopher. Wherever there has been any manifestation of what is ordinarily called supernatural power or wisdom, there a little current of the Kundalini must have found its way into the Sushumna. Only, in the vast majority of such cases, the people had ignorantly stumbled on some practice which set free a minute portion of the coiled-up Kundalini. All worship, consciously or unconsciously, leads to this end. The man who thinks that he is receiving a response to his prayers does not know that the fulfillment comes from his own nature, that he has succeeded, by the mental attitude of prayer, in waking up a bit of this infinite power which is coiled up within himself. Thus, what men ignorantly worship under various names through fear and tribulation, the yogi declares to the world to be the real power coiled up in every being, the mother of eternal happiness. And Raha Yoga is the science of religion, the rationale of all worship, all prayers, forms, ceremonies, and miracles. We are now come to the exercises in Pranayama. Sit upright, the body must be kept straight. The spinal cord, although not attached to the vertebral column, is yet inside it. If you sit crookedly, you disturb the spinal cord, so let it be free. Any time that you sit crookedly and try to meditate, you do yourself an injury. The three parts of the body, the chest, the neck, and the head, must always be held straight in one line. You will find that by a little practice this will come to you as easily as breathing. The second thing is to get control of the nerves. We have said that the nerve centers that control the respiratory organs has a sort of controlling effect on the other nerves, and rhythmical breathing is therefore necessary. The way we generally breathe should not be called breathing at all. It is very irregular. Then there are some natural differences of breathing between men and women. The first lesson is to breathe in a measured way, in and out. That will harmonize the system. When you have practiced this for some time, you may repeat along with your breathing the word Om, or any other sacred word. In India, we use certain symbolical words to measure the periods of inhalation and exhalation, instead of counting 1, 2, etc. That is why I advise you to mentally repeat a sacred word while you practice. Let the word flow in and out with the breath rhythmically, and you will find that the whole body is becoming rhythmical. Then you will enjoy real rest. Compared with it, sleep is no rest. Once this rest comes, the most tired nerves will be calmed down, and you will find that you have never before really rested. The first effect of this practice is perceived in a change of expression in one's face. Harsh lines disappear with calm thought. Calmness comes over the face. Next comes a beautiful voice. I never saw a yogi with a croaking voice. These signs come after a few months' practice. After practicing the above-mentioned breathing for a few days, you should take up a higher one. Slowly fill the lungs with breath through the left nostril, and at the same time concentrate the mind on the Ida, the left nerve current. You are, as it were, sending the nerve current down the spinal column and striking violently the last plexus, the basic lotus, which is triangular in form, the seat of the Kundalini. Then hold the current there for some time. Next, imagine that you are slowly drawing that nerve current, with the breath, through the other side, the Pingala. Then slowly exhale it through the right nostril. This you will find a little difficult. The easiest way is to stop the right nostril with the thumb and then slowly draw in the breath through the left. Then close both nostrils with thumb and forefinger, and imagine that you are sending that current down and striking the base of the Sushumna. Then take the thumb off and let the breath out through the right nostril. Next, inhale slowly through that nostril, keeping the other closed with the forefinger. Then close both as before. The way the Hindus practice this would be very difficult for the people of this country, because they do it from their childhood and their lungs are prepared for it. Here it is well to begin with 4 seconds and slowly increase. Draw in for 4 seconds, hold in for 16 seconds, then exhale in 8 seconds. This makes one pranayama. At the same time, think of the basic lotus, triangular in form. Concentrate the mind on that center. The imagination can help you a great deal. The next exercise is slowly to draw the breath in and then immediately exhale it slowly, and then stop the breath altogether, using the same numbers. The only difference is that in the first case the breath is held in, and in the second held out. This last is the easier one. The exercise in which you hold the breath in the lungs must not be practiced too much. Do it only 4 times in the morning and 4 times in the evening. Then you can slowly increase the time and number. You will find that you have the power to do so, and that you take pleasure in it. So, very carefully and cautiously increase the number, as you feel that you have the power, to 6 instead of 4. It may injure you if you practice it irregularly. Of the 3 processes for the control of prana described above, the first and the last are neither difficult nor dangerous. The more you practice the first one, the calmer you will be. Repeat Om as you breathe. You can practice even while you are sitting at your work. You will be all the better for it. Someday, if you practice hard, the Kundalini will be aroused. For those who practice once or twice a day, just a little calmness of body and mind will ensure, and a beautiful voice. Only for those who can go on farther with it will the Kundalini be aroused. Then the whole of nature will begin to change and the door of knowledge will open. No more will you need to go to books for knowledge. Your own mind will have become your book, containing infinite knowledge.